next week, Thanksgiving. It's the second, well, maybe it's the second or third best holiday, right behind Halloween, which is a month-long celebration for me. Thanksgiving's only downside is sometimes you have to, there's some relatives you have to talk to that you don't always talk to. Is that a downside of Thanksgiving? But this film, My Apocalyptic Thanksgiving, has been in the works for years. It is now seeing release. It is an indie film with a cause behind it. And Richard and Holly Soriano are joining us here live on the Film Threat Livecast. Let's put you front and center, Richard and Holly. And great to see you on the show. So happy that you made it here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're big fans of the Film Threat, and we do have a funny story about Batman, but we can get that, to it later. And yeah, we're just big fans, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah. And we've met. Wait a sec, haven't we met? We met at a was it a Comic-Con or something like years ago? I want to say like we met.
I've met you, ran into you here and there. You doing your My Big Fat Independent movie. I saw you do your seminar in Comic-Con, and we hung out with you at your Attack of the Show or Attack of the Dock, and we hung out afterwards.
I know, because you've come to panels of mine and we've chatted after, and here's photographic proof that we met. That was WonderCon 2017, I want to say.
Yeah, that's about right.
WonderCon 2017, we met there, and I know that you've come to my panels and always been gracious, and always enjoyed having conversations with you after the panel. But tell us about this movie, My Apocalyptic Thanksgiving. Your timing could probably not be better.
Thanks. Yeah, My Apocalyptic Thanksgiving. I wanted to just come up with a title that only had 3 words, and I was trying to fit in Thanksgiving, zombies, and special needs, and somehow apocalyptic came about. At first it was My Most Apocalyptic Thanksgiving, and then someone said just make it 3 words, so it's My Apocalyptic Thanksgiving.
And tell us, what is the story of this film? And it's just to be clear, because I know everybody's going to ask it in the chat, and we'll go to our chat questions. It's out now on VOD, on video on demand.
It comes out on the 22nd, and just so you guys know, our distributor is Freestyle Media, and they have been amazing. They really want to support indie filmmakers. And yes, next Tuesday, and we will list all the links. We already have pre-orders for Apple, iTunes, and Vudu, but
YouTube Movies, the whole spiel, like 11 platforms, Vudu. So yeah, wherever you can get it, please support us.
And they're even going to have DVDs at Walmart.com and BarnesandNoble.com next month or so.
Tell us what the story of the film is.
It's about this guy who's autistic, and he's obsessed with zombies, and he goes on the search for his absent mother, and wants to have Thanksgiving lunch with her because he wants to watch the last episode of his favorite zombie TV show and share it with her.
Apocalyptic
Zombies. And so he befriends his Korean family and this drug dealing gang, and they compete to teach him the meaning of family, but through his favorite zombie TV show, he teaches them about forgiveness.
And we have questions in the chat. Do you mind taking some questions in the chat?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Okay, here we go. Let's go. Well, first of all, Daniel gives us £5 and with a big thumbs up. So we appreciate that. Let's see. Danger UXO says, I like the movie poster. Great design. The Wardroom says, welcome, Richard and Holly. I think our audience really does love that we bring indie filmmakers. Like I always say, look, I mean, and Richard and Holly, you were sitting in a chair, and when you weren't filmmakers then, and then the thing that changed it was you decided to do it. So yeah. Captain Cook says, Apocalyptic Thanksgiving is a redundant title for my family. The Chicago Box asks, Thanksgiving is as good as it is an explosive mixture of people. What inspired your film?
Well, we've been taking care of special needs adults for a number of years. And one day when I was driving around, this ad came on the radio, and it was about finding your soulmate online. And one guy said, if you can find your soulmate online, why can't I find my mother? And I found that to be a really heartbreaking story. And I was writing about it. And I found out I was more or less writing about myself, and I was in a not so good place. And so that's how I came about it. Some of the other inspirations are, um, every Sunday we would watch The Walking Dead together, and they enjoyed it. They thought it was comical, violent. So and we want that in a movie because that's how we relate to each other. You like zombies, I like zombies. You like Batman, I like Batman. So it was so important to include the zombies, and soon it became the subtext. And he has a psychotic breakdown, and the zombies become real for him, and so that was really important.
Yeah.
More comments here. Black Ferret Visual says, looks like this could be an instant cult classic to me. Solomon Thornton says, zombies and Thanksgiving, an interesting combo. I'm sold. And Bear Down Adam says, sounds like a heartfelt film. I can't wait to see it. How did you two find most of the cast?
Oh, for the A story, because there's two parts to the film. There's the A story, which is the main story based on the guys, and then there's the TV show, which is about a girl in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. All she really wants to do is charge her cell phone, and so we had those two to play off each other. And we auditioned over 400 people for the main story, and then we auditioned probably another 30 or more for the zombie TV show, because one of the things you learn is so much of filmmaking is casting and then working with your cast. And our director did a really good job of pulling out wonderful performances and having an eye for who would be a good fit.
Yeah, and Joshua, who plays Marcus, he lived with us and stayed, observing the special needs adults every day, and he would pick up the smallest ticks, how they talk. Like one guy, he would talk and he would finish his sentences like this, and he would talk like this. And so he would pick up all these little ticks, and we even had some of the social workers come over and look at Joshua, and they thought he was special needs because he does such a great performance in the film.
And JTPRX says, thanks for helping special needs. Let me extend that thanks also. I have a stepbrother who has Down syndrome. So first of all, he's hilarious. He's very high functioning. He works in a lawyer's office, and he's awesome. So kudos to you for helping with special needs, adults and or kids. It's my heart goes out to you. How did you fund the film? Asks Owen.
We worked 3 jobs, and we turned part of our house into an Airbnb. And that adage in indie film, it can be fast, good, or cheap, but not all three. And so what we had is we had people helping us, because overall, it took us about 12 years to get the film done when all is said and done. But that way, because just like you said, I mean, we love these guys, and we want to show them in all their complexity and give them agency instead of the ableist films that tend to come out that strip them of their humanity. And so for us, it's like, yes, so we'd rather be slow than make it this fancy slick thing that could bring in like the bazillion dollars, because that's not why we did it. It's really
to showcase them. Yeah, and on your point, and earlier in the show, you were talking about humor and how they have this great sense of humor. And, I wanted to portray that because, again, you have to make fun of yourself. I mean, you can't take yourself so seriously. Part of like when you say special needs, by default, you want to follow their journey and this and that. But we wanted people to fall in love with Marcus and the special needs. And so if he had a sense of humor, which they do, politically incorrect because they they're like this childlike innocence, and and but they don't have a filter, and that's what makes them hilarious. Some of them you can't even tell they're special needs, and they say very politically incorrect things, which I include in the film.
More comments here and questions. Spaceman says, hello and welcome. I was a job coach for special needs adults years ago. Thanks for making this. I'll watch for sure.
Oh,
Thank you.
Apocalypse TDM says, sounds awesome. Zombie themed holiday film. I'm in. And the Chicago Box asks, sounds different. What genre would you say it is?
It's kind of a dramedy, but it's and horror, kind of a mashup, because it's kind of like the horror is kind of more like Shaun of the Dead meets Ash versus Evil Dead versus versus like The Exorcism or something, The Exorcist, something like that. So
yeah, it was hard because it was like, would I watch a special needs movie? Not really, because I live in that world. But would I watch something with zombies? Absolutely.
And it's so funny because so many people are like, special needs and zombies. Well, if you know the guys, you'd know that's a perfect fit.
Well, it sounds like there's a documentary called Sam and Max Make a Zombie Movie. I don't know if you're familiar with it. They won an award at our Award This event, and it was two friends who they're Down syndrome, but they're like, again, really high functioning, and they make a movie. And so they made a documentary of them making a zombie movie. You should look it up. Sam and Maddie Make a Zombie Movie. And I met them at our awards event. They were such great dudes. It was really fun hanging out. But also, like, I've had a friend for years when I first moved to Los Angeles in the 90s, Jenny Gold, who's a film director. She's paralyzed from the neck down, but she directs movies. And she was pointing out to me, she ended up making a documentary about a disability in film and history of it. And it's like, disabled are the highest so-called minority, right? I mean, we like to say, like, people like to divide things by, ethnicity and whatnot. And it's like, well, the highest one is people with disabilities. That's the highest. And it is a little pandering, Hollywood. And what did they made fun of it in that movie Tropic Thunder with Simple Jack, like that Hollywood likes to like make these movies about people with special needs, but they never cast people with special needs. Although Crispin Glover did a whole series, they did a trilogy of movies all starring special needs actors. More comments here. They're coming in fast and furious. I got to keep up. Composer Dave 68 says, "Go Richard and Holly." Retro
Dave is our composer.
Oh, that's great. Oh, okay, great. Retro Nerd Girl says, I have to say that the premise for this movie sounds like so much fun. And thank you, Retro Nerd Girl. And Fear the Turtle 21 says, anything with Shaun of the Dead and Ash versus Evil Dead vibes has to be great. I'm sold. And the Wardroom has a question. Who is the inspiration for the autistic character?
Well, he was kind of a mashup of different characters. And again, some of them, like, they're smart enough. Like, when we talk about special needs or autistic, mentally retarded, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, so it encompasses all of them. And so one of and mental illness. And so half of them know that around the holidays that they don't have families. They're abandoned basically to the system, and we essentially they are our family and vice versa. And so they start to kind of get upset that everyone else is having a holiday, and some people's families visit them because they're all in a boarding care. And we take care of 6 of them, and half the family would visit or drop off some gifts, say hi, shake hands for 5 minutes, and then leave, and then leave them at home. And some of them, their families would say, we're going to be there, and then call and then never show up, and it breaks their heart. So that was also part of the inspiration of the story. It's kind of like Oprah when she meets her long lost sister for Thanksgiving. We were watching that at Thanksgiving, and man, that really got to some of the guys.
And a boarding care is like a group home for people not familiar with the term.
Solomon Thornton says Hollywood makes movies about diversity and special to pat themselves on the back. You guys made this film out of your passion. I salute you. Thank you for that, Solomon. And Brock Samsonite has a question. So this is in the genre of grindhouse Thanksgiving movies. You know that's a genre, right?
I never thought of it that way, because we talked to a lot of marketing people like right beforehand when we were making it. Is it special needs? Is it a holiday film? Is it a horror film? Well, what is it? And when people watched it, we screened it for a number of families, and man, it really hit home for them. I mean, anyone who has special needs or mentally ill, members of their family, it just really hit home for them. So they totally understood what was going on in the movie.
Cool. Zavin asks, were there any scenes surprisingly easy or hard to film?
All of the above.
Yeah, indie film is hard. I mean, it just is. But what were some of your challenges?
It's just a matter of, like typical things like schedules, like we lost a location the day before a shoot, and and just trying to coordinate everything and figuring out how to best tell the story, because like we got a bunch of footage, but then we did a cut, and then we did about 10 technical screenings and got notes from like 60 people of different walks of life, just to kind of figure that out, to really kind of figure it. And once we start getting notes based on things we couldn't change based on the footage that we had, because I was the producer that said no more reshoots, none of that stuff. We knew that we really couldn't do anymore, and so it's just the whole process was learning, because this is our first time taking on something so ambitious.
Cool. And let's wrap up with this final question here. It's a good final question. Owen asks, what was the biggest lesson learned making your film?
The biggest lesson, I think, start with the end in mind. Don't have a heart attack, and avoid lockdowns.
Avoid lockdowns is good. And Foz has a great final comment here. Bringing attention to autism in a real interesting way is very admirable. I think whenever there's anything zombies in it, you had me at zombies, and I like just a different, new and interesting way to tell a story. And I think authentically portraying disability on film is something that is admirable. I think we've seen Hollywood have their attempt at it with varying levels of success, but I appreciate this film, especially The Timing Could Not Be Better. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. My Apocalyptic Thanksgiving is coming out next week, Tuesday, November 22nd. Perfect for the holidays. Available on all video on demand platforms. You can pre-order it now. iTunes, Vudu, all the major platforms, YouTube Movies. So check it out. Richard and Holly, thank you for joining us on the show. Is there a website people can be directed to? I think I had a website that you guys, didn't you guys create a website, right?
Yeah, myapocalypticthanksgiving.com.
We threw all that stuff out at the beginning because we're super nervous. This is our very first podcast talking about Apocalyptic Thanksgiving.
Well, really good job, by the way.
Yeah.
You did a really good job. Here we go. Here's the website. It is myapocalypticthanksgiving.com. We will put the link to this website in the description for this episode and the spin-off video we do. Additionally, a link to the trailer. So there you go. Look, you can even contact you. You can
reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions, and we're working on our next project. So yeah, absolutely. Let us know.
Congratulations on the film. Timing Could Not Be Better. I think it's going to be a huge hit. And, I love it. I love it. This is the kind of originality that Hollywood can't do.
Touching back on, how autistic people are portrayed, I think they're either saints or they're sinners. And then we wanted Marcus to sort of fall off the path and become a sinner, and has to come back, and be like, the son that comes back and asks for forgiveness, because I think, you know, that's why we love them and we hate them I mean, not hate them, but we there's sort of this love-hate relationship with them, because some people think of it like a curse, and some people truly forget how special these people really are.
And they're not so different from us, and that's why we did this.
Well, congratulations again, Richard and Holly. First of all,
Thank you.
have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.